Oh, right, that's fine. Lynn, I'm just going to mute you. Lynn, you seem to also have two devices on, so there was a bit of feedback. So just to reiterate for the recording, unfortunately, Cass has had a sudden family thing come up that she has not been able to join today. So you've got me. I'm very happy to answer any questions. If you just want to put your hand up or just start speaking. If someone's speaking, you can raise your hand using the icon, or you can also, if you can't speak for whatever reason, you can put a question in the chat. And then I can read that when we have a break. So just to reiterate for those who just joined, I'm very sorry Cass has had a sudden family thing come up. She can't join us today. I'm Mary Jane, and I'm happy to answer what I can. I can also take things on notice as well. So does anybody have any questions? These are basically any questions that you have. Self-managed super fund setup is my specialty, but I've heard Cass speak a lot, so I can also share her thoughts on some things. Does anybody have any questions? Just unmute yourself if you do. I do know that sometimes people join these sessions to hear what other people ask, which is fantastic. It's a great way to kind of feel like you're part of a community and hear what other people are thinking about or doing. It can be very helpful and empowering. So that's, if you don't have questions, that's no problem at all. No questions. So it normally goes for about an hour. Oh, Pete. Oh, hello. I know you, Legless Goanna. Um, feel free to.
G'day.
How are you going?
Oh, good, thank you.
What can I do for you?
Hey, just a quick question regarding our last talk. Who, with me sister, which she obviously lives overseas and thinking about joining the self-managed super fund that I've got. She's obviously a British registered. She's got dual passport. Who is she best to talk to? Is it you first up, Mary, or should I get her in contact with like Peter, me accountant?
Yes, I would say talk to. So set up a consult with Peter.
Yep.
Because you are one of our ongoing clients, and just explain the situation, and she will have the technical information available. Yes, so it will very much depend on the proportion, so how much you've got value in your self-managed super fund as opposed to what she'd be bringing across, because you do need to have at least 50% or 51% of the value of the self-managed super fund resident in Australia. So yeah, so Peter, set up a free consult with Peter. You can choose, technical tax advice or something like that.
Yep.
And probably best to send her a short email in advance of the consult, just to set out what the information you have got, what your sister's name is,
Yeah,
roughly how
yeah,
much
yep.
super she's got, where it is, and that sort of thing.
No worries. Thank you.
That's okay. Good. Anybody else got any questions? These sessions usually run for an hour, but if nobody has questions, then we wrap it up quickly. Oops, there's a few people joining. The last session we had only a handful of people join, so a lot of people got a lot of time to themselves. Just for the last two people who have joined, unfortunately, Cass has had a family matter come up suddenly, and she's unable to join today. I'm very sorry. I'm Mary Jane. I can answer quite a lot of questions, perhaps not as many as Cass can. I can always take your questions on notice and get back to you. Oh, somebody's put something in the chat. Oh, yes. So there is a question here. And just to let you know, for those who joined, it is being recorded and it will be uploaded before I forget. Let me just get it's FBN Media, and I'll put that in the chat there, FBN Media on YouTube. And unfortunately, the Q&A we had 2 weeks ago, which had some good information, Cass has not yet been able to download that video. The way our system is set up is that it only goes into her personal folder, and she's the only one that can download it. I know it's a crazy thing we need to fix. She hasn't done that yet. So we have a question from S. I have a question about activating a pension in the SMSF. How do I do that, and what do I need to have in place for that to happen? I'm 65 and don't currently have an income going in there, although I plan to bring in some. So great question. If you're one of our clients, I'm assuming you are, then you get in touch with your accountant. Each of our clients has a designated accountant, and just let them exactly know that, and they'll step you through the process. It's very simple. They just work out how much annually you will need to be drawing down as a pension, and do all the other technical things. So the first step is basically, if you know your accountant, which you should do if you're in our system, then email them and explain what you want to do to them, and they'll set it up for you. Okay. Now, someone's typing, but I've got a question from Joe. You've got your hand up. Joe, what would you like to ask? Oh, you have to unmute yourself.
Sorry.
Yes.
Oh, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Oh, okay, fantastic. Hi, I'm kind of new to like the off-grid living, right at the very beginning of learning about it, and so basically still live in the suburbs. But my husband and I have a question of how do you transition from living in the suburbs to going to living off-grid?
In what? That's a very broad question.
Like where do you actually begin? That's because that's something that we've sort of been thinking about doing for quite some time, but we just don't know where to sort of begin. So do you have to join a community?
So
Do you need?
Yeah, it depends how big your budget is, and what your own skill set is. So if you've got a great budget and lots of skills, then you could simply look for some rural land, look that suits you in a suitable location. Off-grid means that there won't be any power, any utilities and so on, in which case there may be, local council might have certain rules and regulations about what you can do on the land. You may or may not be able to erect structures and so on. So getting clear on what is allowed on the land, and then buy the land and do it yourself. There's a lot of great providers to, it's still going to cost some money if you don't want to live in a tent with candles and you want some form of solid structure, even if it is a temporary dwelling like a container house. A small bush chook, for example, red earth, I think it is, has a bush chook thing where, you've got batteries and a backup generator and solar panels and so on. And that is enough to run a small container home. But that still costs you $30,000. You can do it much cheaply if you've got the skill sets. But be aware when you're dealing with electricity and that sort of thing, you don't want to muck around. I've seen some dodgy setups that, especially if you're in the bush, if you don't have things connected properly, they can result in, some serious bushfire damage. So, where do you start? There's a lot of groups out there, especially Facebook. I don't know if you do Facebook. There's so many groups out there on Facebook. There's a lot of resources available. But in our community, if you do want to get in touch with Cass, we have one community that we are doing. And the way we've done it is because we had some money, not huge amounts. I couldn't buy $1 million property on my own. And I certainly, even if I've got skill sets, I don't have the physical energy anymore or strength to do a whole lot of rural stuff myself. So I need other people in a community. So the most important thing is people. Make sure that you really vet, but you talk to the people that you're thinking about doing it together with, because and get to know them over a period of a year or so. Because if you're in a community with them, you're stuck with them.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Just another question. Living off grid. How do you make a living? Can you make a living out of living off grid?
Again, it depends on what your skill set is. So if you're a beekeeper, then you can make honey. If you can grow things, you can sell your produce. If you're good with animals, or if you're in a rural area that's zoned for tree harvesting, you could sell, you could talk to the local timber mill and talk to them about a harvest every couple of years. I mean, I don't know a lot about it, but I do know that's a thing. If you're a carpenter, you can make things. If
Actually,
you
my
are
husband.
like me, you can have an internet connection and work from a tent.
Okay. Well, my husband is a carpenter and he's also a teacher, and I homeschool our youngest. So that's where we're sort of thinking, how would we make that work? Because we were thinking about moving up to Queensland. We're in New South Wales, but we're thinking if we move to Queensland, we also have, we have 4 children. So we're trying to sort of figure out, how do they make a living? How do we make a living? And can we possibly make a living off grid as well? So
Yeah, so look, start with a pen and a bit of paper, if that's what you're so inclined, or a computer spreadsheet, and just work out your budget. It comes down to mathematics, like work out how much it's going to cost you for food and shelter. And they're the main things, and transport, a bit of transport, because you've got to get your food and shelter somehow. So just do a budget. Work out how much you think it's going to cost, then work out what your available budget is, so that you can maybe say, okay, well, without any income, we can survive a year at least. Okay, so then after the first year of settling in, what is it that we can be doing? What community contributions could you make? So if you're in a small community, I mean, maybe you can work part-time the kids can work in the local cafe or supermarket, or often a lot of rural properties need help on the properties. I certainly know that.
okay.
There's no one answer. It's like, well, what are you interested in doing? What are your skill sets and what are you willing to learn? And then, okay, pick an area and have a look at what you can afford, and then start from there.
Okay.
It's a complex journey.
Yeah, it sounds like it. We're sort of at the very beginning of thinking about it. So we're like, how do people do it? If there's people out there doing it, we know it can be done. But we're like, where do you go? Like, where do you begin?
Yeah, you
And
just start asking the questions, and so you can even start. So just start is the most important thing, and you may be surprised as you're talking to people, things will fall out and into your lap sometimes. So someone's in the chat has asked about the communal living where Cass lives,
yes.
and I've got a little site there as well. So what that is is there more info on it? At the moment, we are managing council at the moment, and fire ants. So be aware that rural living, you think you're going to be left alone in the rural area, but it seems that there's a big move to control everybody, as we all may know. So the fire ants bombing of poisons from the sky is one thing that we're battling at the moment. And also council is looking to upgrade our the council's changing stuff all the time, like constantly changing things. You go, right, we've followed all these guidelines, and they go, well, no, you haven't, because we've introduced new ones. So so at the moment, just to answer that question, we do have information about our community in the Gold Coast hinterland, but at the moment we've just completely swamped in paperwork for the council. So we're not really in a position to do much. We've got 1 or 2 blocks spare, but if you're interested in that, then I would email Cass, and I'll put her email, Cass at freedomfs.com.au, in the chat there. We're planning that once we clear out this council question over the next couple of months, because they work very slowly, then we will be going out to the community again with any remaining blocks. So I hope that answers that question. But just start talking to people about it. Next question in the chat, Ian. I'm in my late 30s on a good salary with approximately 210k in super, cash on hand following a sale of her home. Considering a tiny home and looking at ways to take more control and make the super work for you. Can you buy land? Can you buy tiny and rent it out? And any other suggestions? So that's a great place to start. So 210 is already a good amount to set up a self-managed super fund. If you have had a capital gains exposure, if it's your family home, you might not have that. But if you've got cash on hand, you can take advantage of tax benefits in the long term by putting it into your self-managed super fund, and certainly the more value you've got in your self-managed super fund, the more cost effective it becomes. So you can do that. The only thing to think about is that if you put that money into super, you're not going to be able to access it for anything other than investments until you turn 60 and meet the conditions of retirement. So if you want to go on holiday or put some petrol in the car or buy a new car or something, or food, you won't be able to use the money for that if you've put it into super. So just, again, do some maths, work out what you need to spend on you and your family now, and put any that you think, I'm going to just use this to invest and build my wealth, you can put that into self-managed, into your super. In terms of land, yes, you can buy land. You can buy anything that's considered, a worthwhile investment, which is considering, the risk and the benefit and the return. So you can buy land, and you could put a dwelling on it and rent it out. Things to consider is when you're doing that, and this goes on to the earlier question, you do just look into what council regulations there are. And I know that we're all about not dealing with the council and kind of just letting it slide, but it's not going to hurt to know what they are, because the last thing you want, and I've heard this happen in some places in New South Wales, where there was a farmer, had some land, had a friend put a container home there, and the council went, no, you don't have permission to do this, came in with the police and bulldozers to move them on. So that's not pleasant. But if it's an investment, you buy the land and you're allowed to put some form of dwelling on it, a tiny home, and rent it out, by all means. The tiny homes is a new thing. There was an article recently, it wasn't very helpful. I was going to put something in our newsletter about tiny homes, but the thrust of the article was less about self-managed super fund and more about council. It was more saying, really look into council, what you are allowed to do and not do. Are there any other suggestions? Just be aware that if you're planning at any stage you're not supposed to ever live on the land yourself, or in the tiny home yourself. But in terms of return, you can say, well, adjustments return, you can put some animals on it for adjustment, tiny home rental income, or capital gains return. So there's no one way that you're supposed to get an income from an investment. Just pure capital gains is entirely acceptable. Other suggestions? So you don't have any capital gains. That's what that's fine, because it was, yep. So I hope that points you somewhere.
It does, yeah.
Yes.
Sorry, I missed that last bit.
No, Ian, did you have any other follow-on question about that?
Yeah. So do you often, or do you advise ever to borrow against your self-managed super fund? Is that?
Yeah. So we don't advise anything, because we're not financial advisors, but we can say, yes, you can borrow to buy property in your self-managed super fund, and you would, if you do want more information about that, then I'll give you the contact details in the chat here. Let me just find them, of Jessica. Jessica is our referral partner for property. There it is. Sorry, I just have to find the link and put it in the chat. Here we go. And she will step you through all the options in terms of investing in property. Yes, you can do it. You have to typically set up what's called you have to set up a bear trust. So the SMSF itself doesn't borrow the money. Under that, there's a separate trust called a BARE trust, and that's the vehicle that you borrow the money through. And that again is costs 2,000 plus GST to set one of those up, but again, it comes out of your super. That's one of the costs to buying the property. But Jessica will step you through all that, what's possible. And then she can also, if you've got the amount that you're looking at, where you're looking at, she's also a buyer's agent, so she can maybe help you out there, because they often get better intel and better deals.
Okay, great. Thanks very
No
much.
worries. Now, I saw somebody had Lynn has got a question. How easily can you draw on the SMSF to receive an allocated pension? When it is setting up, I am planning on purchasing precious metals. Is it a good idea to leave some in cash? So once your SMSF's set up and you turn 60 and meet the conditions of retirement, which simply means you need to have left a job, doesn't mean you can't ever work again. A lot of people like myself and Cass retire from a job and then go after 6 months or a year, it's like, I've had enough of this, and go back to work. So you can certainly continue working, but you have to be considered to have retired. That's your intention, and you have to have evidence that you have left a job. Then you simply contact your allocated accountant that you will have been in touch with and talk to them about transitioning to retirement and going on a pension, and your accountant will calculate the amount of pension that you'll need to take every year. And you do need to take the pension to be considered retired. If you don't want to use all the money, that's fine. You can actually talk to them and say, well, I actually want to contribute some back, if you want to do that. When it is setting up, when it's set up, I'm planning on purchasing precious metals. Yeah, that's no problem. Yes, we do recommend leaving at least $3,000 to $5,000 in cash in the SMSF bank account, so that your accounting fees, so there's sort of 4 sets of fees. There's our accounting fees, which we charge monthly. So we've got the annual fee divided by 12, which is charged monthly. So anywhere from $150 a month to $260 a month is the range. Then annually you have the ASIC company renewal fee, which is $65. If we are your ASIC agent, and that's a $300 fee, then we will pay that on your behalf when your ASIC renewal comes up, and this year it's $65. So we charge the ASIC agent fee at the beginning of the year to cover the year. We don't charge the $65 until just before your company is due to renew. Then the ATO will charge you $259 separately when it's lodged. The auditor charges $500 or maybe sometimes $700 if it's complex, and that is charged. Currently, our clients are paying the auditor directly. From next year, then we will be, like the ASIC fee, we will be billing it just before the end of the financial year, so we can pay the auditor, because there's been quite a few, unfortunately, who have been very late in paying the auditor, and we want to keep the auditor happy. So that's why we say keep $3,000 or to $5,000 in your bank account so that you can set and forget. Now, that will depend. If you're making contributions to your fund, you can maybe leave $1,000 in there, because you'll be topping it up throughout the year. But if you're on a pension and you're not making any more contributions, just keep $3,000 to $5,000 in, depending on the value of your fund, because that will affect the accounting fees. Then let's say that year it runs down. And then the next year, if you've got precious metals, when you buy precious metals, things to think about is, if you've got $100,000, $120,000 now, you could buy a kilo of gold. But when you want to sell a little bit, you can't sell it if it's in one block. So it's often better to really sit down with someone like Ainsley Bullion and think about, well, maybe I'll buy a couple of big chunks and then some smaller chunks and then some 1 ounce bits, so that if you're in the pension over the next however many years, every year, to cover those ongoing fees, you can just sell one little block of gold. So if you had a block of 1 ounce gold last year, it was worth whatever it was worth, $2,500. You sell it this year, it's worth $3,500. Just as an example. My figures might be a bit rubbery there, but certainly gold has gone up. So that's and that's up to you. So some of our clients say, I don't want to leave any money in the bank, like just a minimum. You have to keep something in there, maybe like a $10 minimum. And when I need to pay the bills at that time, I will put some money in. And then the big bill, well, we charge monthly, so you need to put a couple of $100 in every month. But some clients say, I don't want to leave any in there. And then once a year, they'll just sell a little bit of gold and put it in the cash that they get from the gold in the bank account to top it up. And if you're with someone like, or any of the bullion merchants, but I work with Ainsley, I've got some in unallocated. So what that means is I can just go on the computer and click sell X amount, and then they put it straight in the bank account so that I don't physically have to go in to Ainsley to do it. So I hope that's answered that question. Has anyone got any other questions? Lynn is? No? So just to recap, I did send the link to the YouTube channel, which is Freedom Broadcasting Network Media, which Carl Liebold from Voice of Freedom runs. This is where Cass usually uploads. Oh, sorry. Legless, did you still have a question? Your hand's still.
Oh, yeah, it's more of a comment.
Yep.
If obviously you set up your accounts through Macquarie Banking and that, I'll just tell you there's a little drama I ran through last week and halfway in through to this week. Macquarie locked my account due to that I bought a certain sort of cryptocurrency, and they were checking to see if it was fraud. And it's taken a week for them to unlock my account. So I don't know whether you want to call Macquarie before you go and purchase any cryptocurrency, because they certainly raises a red flag. They didn't have a problem with me buying gold and silver and all that, but
Yeah.
as soon as it come to crypto, I received the crypto, the whole lot. It was all about receipts, got control of it, but they locked me out of my account. So I'm just letting people know that if it's happened to you, or it actually might happen to you, so just be aware of that. That's all I've got to say about that.
Yeah, thanks for that. That's a really good suggestion, is if you are buying crypto through, I think CoinSpot or Ainsley Crypto, I don't think they would be a problem there. But if it's something where if it's not mainstream, well, I mean, I don't know much about it.
Oh yeah, no, it was through like Ainsley Crypto.
Was it?
Yeah.
And even then,
Even then, yeah, it's because they I'm pretty sure it come down when they were researching, they looked at Ainsley Bullion and not Ainsley Crypto, and so it was actually on their end where they stuffed up when they were trying to verify it. So
that's it. Okay, that's interesting, because I bought
yeah,
crypto, a huge amount, $5,000 of crypto. And
yeah,
I've lost money on it. But anyway, I bought some crypto through Ainsley Crypto to just dabble my toe in the water
yep.
through my SMSF, and I did not have a problem at all. But I can tell you what may have prompted this. On the 24th of September, ASIC announced or released that, and I'll just read it here, that following an ASIC investigation, the Markets Disciplinary Panel has fined Macquarie Bank a record $4.995 million after failing to prevent suspicious orders being placed on the electricity futures market. Now, it's not crypto, but they've been done for failing to have effective controls to prevent failure to properly monitor system for third-party fee withdrawals from customer accounts. So it's not directly the same thing, but I can imagine that they are being super vigilant.
Oh, they that's what they were saying. They stonewalled me from like every single angle.
Yeah.
Anyhow, not to worry.
Okay. All right. Well, thanks for that. But yeah, look, it doesn't hurt to give them a call before you're going to do it, just so that they could maybe mark it as fine. I haven't had anyone else reporting this, so thanks for that heads up. Hopefully others won't experience it. Now, Deirdre, you have a question. You've been very patient. Just unmute yourself.
Yes. Hi, how are you?
Good, thank you.
Now, just going back to what you were saying before about to top up your account so that your fees come out. Does that come through? Do you go to your super fund and sell some and top it up, or do you put in money from your other accounts? And then is that included as a contribution?
Yes. So there's two ways of doing it. Let's say you've got some bullion and you want to top it, the cash up in the account. You sell an ounce of bullion and put the money into the bank account. That's just selling an asset, and it's liquefying an asset, and that's all within the super system. So that's no problem at all. The other option is you can use your own money to put it in, and that would be considered a contribution. If it's a small amount, it shouldn't be a problem, but I always suggest, before making any personal contributions, just contacting your accountant to just double check that you haven't reached any limits. Normally people haven't reached limits, but it doesn't hurt to just contact the accountant and explain what you're planning to do, and say, just checking that this is the most tax effective way to do it. Is that, and they'll say, yep, why are you asking me this question? Yes, that's fine, normally. But it's the 1% like me that get caught out. Trust me, any problem anyone's have, I've had it first personally. So all right.
Thank you.
It's all right. Right, so Lynn has asked, what's the minimum amount to start an SMSF? Well, legally, there's no minimum that you must have, but what we suggest is that ideally at least 200,000 or possibly 150,000 or more. And that's the total combined balance among all the members. So if you've got 50,000 and someone else has got 100,000, you know, that's a decent chunk of money to make it cost effective. And it's about cost effectiveness comparative to what you'd be paying for in your superannuation retail or industry superannuation fund now. Typically, you're charged 1 to 1.5% in fees in an industry or retail fund. And so we like to make sure that it's around about the same level. So the minimum that we charge in accounting administration is 1,620 plus GST. So that if you've got less than, you know, $162,000, then it's going to become more than 1%. So that's for the accounting. And then, of course, you've got little bits and pieces like the ASIC fee, $65, and the ATO charges you, and then the auditor charges you as well. So that's why we say around 200,000 makes it most cost effective. Having said that, not everybody is setting up a self-managed super fund because it's the cheapest thing to do with the super. They're doing it because they want to invest in a broader range of assets, including bullion and property. And in their opinion, they believe that that's a better way, not only to protect their wealth in uncertain financial times, but to actually increase it better comparatively to the stock market or just cash sitting in the bank. The basic process, the basic process of buying a property with the SMSF, how do you approach for a loan? How long does it take? Adam, maybe you came in a bit late, and I did go through that with Ian a bit earlier. The basic process is you do need to have a consult with Jessica, and I've put Jessica's contact details. Oh, hang on. Yeah, there's an email in the chat above, and she will go through the process for you. It depends. If you're not borrowing money, it'll be much more straightforward, but she can also act as a buyer's agent. The bottom line is the property name must be in the name of the self-managed super fund, so your lawyers or your conveyancer will need all that information. So if you're not borrowing money and you know what property you want to buy, then you don't need to talk to Jessica. You can just say, put it in the name of my SMSF, here's the money. But if you do need to borrow money, then you'll need to talk to someone like Jessica or Jessica. She'll set up a bear trust for you and step you through all the processes and help you with the mortgage, the borrowing, help you find the property if you need to. How long does it take? Well, how long's a piece of string? Yeah, look, I don't have an answer for you on that. It often depends on how long it takes to find the property you want to buy, how long it takes to get finance approval. The most important thing is do not sign any paperwork without first getting your finance approved. And that is because we had a case a few weeks ago where we were running around madly one afternoon because it was literally an hour left to get some of the documentation in, because the financial approval had taken much longer than expected and much longer than normal. But unfortunately, the client had already signed that they were going to buy it. So it was a bit stressful. So don't sign any paperwork until you've got your finances and paperwork lined up. And set up an appointment with Jessica and she can step you through all the details. This is buying the commercial property that you personally own. Oh, so you can't, so you already own it personally and you want to transfer it into the SMSF. The only way that you can do that is you have to, you just buy it according to market rate. So you can't do a transfer and it can't be sold cheaper than the market value. I think that's what you're asking. So you own it in your own name and you want to put it into the SMSF. So you'll have to sell it and you'll be liable for stamp duty as well. So it's just like it has to be done. Yes, normally. But again, that's not my area of expertise. So set up a consult with Jessica and she can probably answer or definitely answer you in more detail. Someone is going to soon sell their home and they don't believe there will be enough to buy another one. So that would it be preferable to contribute to my super or invest in it personally? Okay. So a couple of things to think about here is be aware that, let's say you sell a house for $200,000 and you then invest in, so when you've sold your family home for $200,000 as an example, it's not going to be subject to capital gains tax because it was your personal residence. But then you buy an asset that then is in your personal name, and when you sell that, there will be even gold and silver. People are surprised, including myself, that you will have to pay capital gains tax if you ever sell it or if you realise the gain. So if you want to avoid that, then you could consider setting up a self-managed super fund and making personal contributions into the self-managed super fund. Before, as I said earlier, before anyone makes personal contributions, set up a consult with an accountant just to make sure that all the caps are used, or that we know what your caps are, and that you don't get into any difficulty by overstepping a cap here or there. So then, of course, be aware that if it is in your super fund, then you're not going to be able to use it for yourself to either pay your own rent or pay for somewhere to live or buy another somewhere that's cheaper or that's affordable. So there's a lot of things to consider. If you don't have a self-managed super fund already, or if you do, set up a consult. If you don't have a self-managed super fund already, you can and want to investigate this as a possibility with real numbers in your case, then you can set up a consult with me, and I can follow up with an email to tell you how to set up a self-managed super fund. And once you're in our system, then we can get you a consult with Peter, who is the lead SMSF technical specialist, and she can crunch some numbers for you. Yes, it's a bit broad for this group Q&A. Now, on that note, I made the mistake once upon a time of telling people I would send you some emails after this, and that was because we used to have everybody on these calls booked into our booking system, but now a lot of people just jump on a link, and I don't have your email addresses. So I will put my email address here. And if anybody does want to follow up with me in terms of how to set up a self-managed super fund, just email me there and I'll send you an introductory email with a lot of information to get started. Someone has got their hand up. Deirdre, did you still have your hand up? Did you have another question?
No, I didn't. Sorry. How do I get rid of it?
Oh, I don't know. But that's okay.
There you go. Thank you.
So, yeah, I think we've gone through a lot of these questions. How long? Okay, so if no one's got any other questions, we might wrap it up here. We are holding the next one, and I am going to do everything I can to make sure that Cass jumps on the next one, because I know people aren't here to see me, they're here to see Cass. I'll also, in the chat, I've put the information to the next one, but it is always on our website. Also, Cass will be in Southport on the 22nd of October in Queensland at a My Place meeting with Ainsley Bullion, doing a live presentation. So if anyone hasn't seen our presentation, if you go on to our YouTube channel, not the one I've put up there earlier, but the YouTube channel here. Oh no, actually that's got all our general videos. I'm sorry, but this is the link, which has got a video called, oh, where's it gone? Where's it gone? There we go. Protect your sorry. Yeah, that's Cass talking on the video. This is ideas to help navigate uncertain financial times, and that video is a broad outline of what Cass presents on at these live seminars. Kay, you've got a question. How can I help?
Yeah, just briefly, if I'm wanting to chat to someone in FFS about my circumstance with the SMSF, with cash, with what I might want to do with my future purchasing through SMSF or by myself, like more of a general overview of options and best way forward with tax and everything, who would be the best person to perhaps chat with in FFS for that?
Yep. So you can, what I'd say is you can email me and I will send you what's called a client snapshot. And that you can sort of fill that in, which gives the person you're going to talk to some information to deal with, and then the specific questions you've got. And Cass is probably the best person to book in with. We call it a health check. So you wanted just to make sure that you've maximised your approach to your money. Is that right?
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah, well, start with an email. I always like to get people as much free information as I can. So start with an email to me, and with your specific questions, I'll try and help you as much as I can. And then Cass does charge for her time, because simply she would not have any time available if she didn't. So she does charge for her time, depending on your questions. Do you have a self-managed super fund already?
Yes.
You do. Okay. And you're one of our clients, are you?
Yes.
Right. Okay. Well, in that case, send me an email, and then I'll with your questions, and I'll see if we can follow up with Peter, which will be all part of the service. If you do want to talk to Cass, we'll have to we'll take it from there. Normally, Cass does charge for her time, even for our ongoing clients, just because she needs to. Otherwise, as I said, she wouldn't have 1 minute available in her life. So just start with an email to me, and we'll take it from there.
Great, thanks.
That's okay. All right. Thanks everybody for joining today. And I again apologise that Cass was not able to make it. Hope there was enough opportunity for everybody to get questions answered and feel part of a community. And we'll look forward to seeing you again next time. Don't forget, if you're near the Gold Coast anyway, she'll be in Southport at the link I posted above on the 22nd of October. And then our next meeting is, I think it's on the 23rd of October. So, all right then, a couple of people are typing, so I'll just see. Thank you. All right then, I'm going to jump off now, and I will do my best to get these videos uploaded. No worries. Oh, by the way, my name's Mary Jane with a hyphen. No worries. Bye.